You are not blocked from abundance because you think wrong thoughts. You are blocked because some part of you decided a long time ago that you do not deserve what you want. That decision is still running. It runs under every affirmation you say, every vision board you build, every time you try to manifest something and watch it slip out of reach right when it gets close. The manifestation world sells you vibration and energy and universal alignment, and none of that is false, but none of it matters if the foundation underneath it is a belief that you are not worthy of receiving. You can raise your vibration for a year straight and you still sabotage the exact thing you asked for, because vibration was never the problem. Worthiness was. You have probably felt this without having language for it. The job that should have come through and mysteriously did not. The relationship that started strong and then you found yourself pulling away right as it deepened. The money that arrived and left almost as fast, like it was never meant to stay. You call these things bad luck, timing, circumstance. They were not circumstance. They were a pattern, and patterns have a source. Today we are taking this apart, where the belief comes from, how it operates without your permission, what it costs you specifically, why the standard advice does not touch it, and what it actually takes to remove it. Not affirm over it, remove it. Here's what almost every manifestation teacher gets backwards. They treat unworthiness like a mindset problem, something you think your way out of with the right words repeated enough times. That approach fails for most people, and it fails for a specific reason. Unworthiness is not a thought, it is a felt sense in the body, installed early, reinforced over years, and operating below the level where thoughts even form. You cannot out-affirm a nervous system pattern. The affirmation lives in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for language and reasoning. The unworthiness lives somewhere older and faster than that, wired into a threat response system that formed before you had words for what was happening to you. When the two conflict, the older system wins every time. It has to. That is its job. This is why you can say, money flows to me easily, while your chest tightens and your breathing shortens, and some part of you flinches at the sentence. That flinch is the truth of what you believe. The words are not. Your body will tell you the truth about your beliefs faster than your mind ever will, if you are willing to listen to it instead of talking over it. Unworthiness shows up as a ceiling. You can want more, plan for more, work for more, and still find yourself stopping at a certain point, again and again, in a way that looks like coincidence, until you track the pattern across every area of your life and see it is not a coincidence at all. It is a limit you built and now enforce on yourself without knowing you are the one enforcing it. Think about the number that shows up for you, the income that always seems to plateau at the same range no matter how many new streams you add. The relationship depth you never quite exceed no matter who the person is. The size of the goals you let yourself set out loud versus the ones you keep private because saying them feels embarrassing. That number is not a market condition or a personality trait. It is a ceiling your nervous system installed and has been enforcing every time you get close to breaking through it. And the enforcement is rarely dramatic. It does not look like a crisis. It looks like a missed opportunity you can explain away, a conversation you did not have, a price you did not ask for, a version of yourself you keep choosing not to become, one small decision at a time, until years later you look up and realize the pattern has a name, and the name is unworthiness. Nobody arrives at unworthiness on their own. It is installed, usually earlier, usually by people who had no idea what they were doing to you, and usually through moments that felt small at the time, but repeated often enough to become architecture. A child who is praised only for achievement learns that love is conditional on output. Good grades bring warmth, A trophy brings attention. Quiet, unremarkable days bring nothing, or worse, bring a subtle withdrawal that the child registers without being able to name it. That child learns correctly, based on the evidence available to them, that being loved requires producing something. That child grows into an adult who cannot receive without immediately working to justify the receiving, who feels a compulsion to overextend the second something good happens, because good things without a corresponding sacrifice feel unsafe, undeserved, temporary. A child who is compared to a sibling or a classmate, told directly or indirectly that they are not the smart one, or the talented one, or the one who was going to make it, absorbs a ceiling on their own potential before they are old enough to question it. Nobody has to say it outright. A tone of voice does it. A pattern of who gets praised for what does it. A single offhand comment repeated in the child's memory long after the adult who said it has forgotten they ever said it at all. That ceiling does not go away when the child grows up. It becomes the invisible line they stop at in every job, every relationship, every opportunity that would have taken them past what they were told they were capable of. A child raised in scarcity, actually financial scarcity, or emotional scarcity, or both, learns that wanting more than what is available is dangerous because wanting more and not getting it hurts, and hurt is something the nervous system will do almost anything to avoid repeating. So the nervous system does the logical thing. It stops letting you want. It shuts down desire before desire can lead to disappointment again. This is why some people struggle to even answer the question of what they want. It is not that they lack desire. It is that desire was made unsafe a long time ago, and the shutdown became automatic. A child who watched a parent struggle with money or watched money become a source of conflict, fear, or shame in the household absorbs a charge around wealth itself. Having more than the family had can feel like betrayal. Succeeding where a parent struggled can feel like abandonment. This one is rarely conscious. Almost nobody will say it out loud that they are afraid of out-earning their parents. But the pattern shows up constantly in people who sabotage themselves the moment they start to exceed the financial ceiling they grew up inside of, as if some invisible loyalty is being violated. None of these are conscious decisions a child makes. They are adaptations, survival responses to an environment the child had no power to change and no ability to fully understand while it was happening. And they worked, in the sense that they protected you then. Shutting down desire protected you from disappointment. Staying small protected you from standing out in a household where standing out was dangerous. Overachieving protected you from the withdrawal of love. These were not flaws. They were intelligent responses to the conditions you were in. The problem is that they are still running now, in a life where they are no longer serving any protective function, costing you the exact things you are trying to build. You are an adult applying a survival strategy from a decade or 3 decades ago to a present that does not require it. And the mismatch between the old strategy and the current reality is exactly where your abundance is getting strangled. You did not choose unworthiness. You inherited it. But you are the only one who can remove it now, and nobody is coming to do that work for you. This belief does not announce itself. It does not walk up and say, I believe I am unworthy of good things. It disguises itself as practical decisions, personality traits, bad luck, timing, other people's fault. Here's what it actually looks like when it's running your life, in enough specific detail that you can start recognizing it in your own patterns instead of someone else's. You get close to something you want and you find a reason to walk away. A job offer that would have paid more, and suddenly you find flaws in the company that were not there a week ago. A relationship that is going well and suddenly you start a fight over nothing, or you stop responding as quickly, or you find the person suddenly less interesting than they were a month ago. That is not intuition protecting you from a bad decision. Intuition is specific. This is loud, vague, and arrives right on schedule, precisely when things are going well. This is the nervous system pulling the emergency brake because things are going too well, and too well feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe, and safety has always mattered more to your nervous system than happiness. You accept less than you know you are worth and call it being realistic. You take the lower offer, the smaller ask, the reduced version of what you actually wanted, and you tell yourself you are being practical, grounded, sensible, humble. You frame it as maturity. Realistic is often just unworthiness, wearing a more socially acceptable name, one that lets you avoid the discomfort of admitting you talked yourself out of something you actually wanted because wanting it that badly felt exposing. You give constantly and struggle to receive. You will overextend yourself for other people without hesitation. Show up for them in ways that cost you real time and real energy. But the moment someone offers you help, a compliment, a gift, generosity in any form, you deflect it, minimize it, or feel an urge to immediately give back so the scale never tips in your favor, even for a moment. Receiving feels like debt. Every gift feels like it comes with an invoice attached, even when nobody sent one. This is not humility, no matter how much it looks like humility from the outside. This is a belief that you have not earned the right to simply be given something without paying for it first. You procrastinate on the exact goals that matter most to you, not the small tasks, not the errands, the big ones, the book you want to write, the business you want to start, the conversation you need to have, the ask you need to make. You will do everything except the thing. Clean the house, answer emails, research endlessly without acting, because starting the thing means finding out whether you can actually have what you want. And some part of you would rather stay in the possibility than risk finding out the answer is no. Staying in possibility protects the fantasy. Trying and failing would confirm the belief you are trying not to look at directly, and confirming it is more painful than never knowing. You self-sabotage right before a breakthrough. This is the most specific pattern and the most telling one, so pay attention to this one especially. Right when a project is about to succeed, right when a relationship is about to deepen, right when the money is about to come in, something happens. You miss the deadline you had covered for weeks. You say the wrong thing to the person who mattered most. You get sick right before the opportunity. You pick a fight with no real cause. This is not bad luck accumulating at a suspicious frequency. This is a nervous system that has a threshold for how much good it can tolerate before it intervenes to bring things back down to the level it considers safe, which is the level it has always known, the level that matches the belief you were given long before you had any say in the matter. You compare consistently and it never resolves anything. You are not actually trying to gather information when you compare yourself to other people. You are looking for confirmation of a belief you already hold. If the belief is that you are behind, every comparison will find evidence you are behind, no matter how much you have actually accomplished. The comparison is not the problem. The belief driving the comparison is the problem, and the comparison will keep finding new targets for as long as the belief stays in place, because the mind is extremely good at finding evidence for whatever it already believes to be true. You overwork to earn rest you never actually let yourself take. You tell yourself, once this project is done, once the goal is hit, once this number is reached, you'll finally relax, finally enjoy what you have built. But the goalpost moves every time you approach it, because the exhaustion was never really about the task. It was about proving you deserve to exist without constant output. And that proof never lands because the belief underneath it was never designed to be satisfied. It was designed to keep you running. You attach an expiration date to good things without noticing you have done it. A part of you assumes the job will end, the relationship will cool, the money will dry up, before any of it actually happened. This shows up as an inability to fully settle into what is working. You are already bracing for the loss while you are still standing inside the gain, which means you never actually get to experience having it, even while you have it. Unworthiness does not just block you from receiving, it blocks you from feeling the receiving once it arrives, because some part of you is convinced it is temporary and wants to get to the disappointment in early before it can catch you off guard. You minimize your own results the moment someone asks about them. Someone notices you have grown, built something, changed your circumstances, and your first instinct is to explain it away. It was luck. It was timing. It was not really that impressive when you break it down. Watch how automatic this is. It happens faster than thought, which is exactly the maker of a nervous system pattern rather than a conscious choice. A person operating from worthiness can simply say thank you and let the acknowledgement land. A person operating from unworthiness has to immediately correct the record, because letting the good version of the story stand feels like a lie they're about to get caught in. Here's the thread running through every pattern on this list. None of them are random. They are one belief expressing itself through a dozen different doors. And once you can see the belief clearly, you start noticing it operating in places you never would have connected to it before. The relationship pattern and the money pattern and the procrastination pattern are not three different problems. They are the same problem, wearing three different outfits. You have likely tried the standard advice, affirmations, vision boards, gratitude journaling, repeating that you are worthy until words feel automatic, and you have likely noticed that none of it moved the needle in any lasting way, and you may have concluded that you are simply bad at manifesting, that you are missing some technique everyone has figured out, or that the whole framework does not work for you specifically. Here's what actually happened. Affirmations operate at the level of language on conscious thought. Unworthiness operates at the level of nervous system and emotional memory, stored in a part of the brain that does not process language the way the prefrontal cortex does. When you say, "I'm worthy of abundance," while your body holds an old, unprocessed belief that you are not, you create an internal conflict between two systems that are not speaking the same language. The mind says one thing, the body says another. And because the body's belief was installed through repeated emotional experience over years, and the affirmation is just a sentence repeated without any emotional weight behind it, the body wins almost every time. This is why affirmations sometimes make people feel worse instead of better. You say the words, notice on some level that you do not believe them, and now you have added a layer of failure on top of the original wound. Not only do you feel unworthy, you now feel like you are bad at fixing it too, which becomes one more piece of evidence for the very belief you're trying to dismantle. The fix is not a better sentence. It is not a more specific affirmation or longer streak of saying it every morning. The fix is going underneath the sentence to the actual felt experience the belief is built on, and processing that experience directly instead of trying to override it with more positive language stacked on top of an unprocessed foundation. This also explains why some people manifest easily and others struggle no matter how hard they try, no matter how correctly they follow the technique. It was never really about how badly they wanted it or how vividly they visualized it. It was about how much unprocessed unworthiness was sitting underneath the wanting, silently capping what they would let themselves receive, regardless of how much effort went into the visualization on top of it. There is a specific tell for this, and once you know it, you will start seeing it everywhere. Watch for the gap between what someone says they want and what they actually let themselves pursue. Someone will say they want financial freedom and then spend years avoiding the one conversation that would move them toward it. Someone will say they want a deep relationship and then consistently choose people who are emotionally unavailable, guaranteeing the depth never has to be tested. The stated desire and the actual behavior diverge, and the gap between them is exactly the size of the unworthiness running underneath. This is also why the manifestation industry can market itself around affirmations for years without the majority of its audience getting lasting results. It is not that the people teaching it are lying. Many of them believe it fully, and it may have even worked for them because they happen to already have a lower baseline of unworthiness to begin with, or they happen to pair the affirmations with real inner work without naming that part specifically. But for the person whose unworthiness runs deep, an affirmation without the underlying processing is asking a sentence to do the work of years of conditioning. That is not a fair fight, and when it fails, the person is left believing the failure is theirs, when the failure actually belongs to an incomplete method being sold as a complete one. None of this means desire, visualization, or belief are irrelevant. They matter, but they sit on top of a foundation, and no amount of work on the top floor fixes a crack in the foundation. You have to go down first. Removing this belief requires a different process than positive thinking. It requires going back to where the belief was formed, feeling what was never fully felt at the time, and letting your nervous system update in real time instead of staying stuck on an old setting that no longer matches your current life. Start by finding the belief in specific language, not vague language, not "I feel bad about myself." That is too broad to work with. Find the exact sentence the belief would say if it could speak in full sentences. I do not deserve to be loved without earning it. If I have more than my family had, I am betraying them. Wanting more than I already have is greedy. If I take up space, someone else has to lose theirs. Sit with this until you find the actual sentence, because you cannot dismantle something you have not named precisely. Vague pain stays in charge. Named pain becomes something you can actually work with. Next, trace it back. Ask where you first learned this, not intellectually, not as a theory you construct after the fact, but as an actual memory, a moment, a room, a person, an age you can picture. You are not doing this to blame anyone, and you are not doing this to build a case against your parents or whoever else shows up in the memory. You are doing this because the belief needs a traceable source before it can be separated from your identity. Right now, it feels like the truth about who you are, permanent and built in. It is not the truth. It is a conclusion a much younger version of you drew from limited information and limited power, and the conclusions drawn by a child with no options can be revised by an adult who finally has some. Then feel what you did not let yourself feel at the time. This is the step almost everyone skips because it is the most uncomfortable one, and it is also the one that actually works. Most unworthiness is not the belief itself, but the buried emotion underneath it. Grief that was never allowed because there was no space for it. Anger that was never safe to express because expressing it made things worse. Fear that had nowhere to go because nobody was available to help hold it. The belief is often a protective structure built around an emotion too big for a child to hold alone. A kind of scaffolding constructed to manage something that could not be processed at the time. When you finally feel that emotion as an adult, with enough resource and safety to actually hold it this time, the belief built around it often loosens on its own because it no longer has a function to perform. The scaffolding was never the point. It was protecting something underneath it. And once that something has been felt, the scaffolding can come down. Then practice receiving in small, real moments, not as an abstract exercise you do once and forget, but as an active, daily discipline you return to over and over. When someone compliments you, take it instead of deflecting it with a joke or a correction. When something good happens, let yourself feel good instead of immediately scanning for the catch that is about to ruin it. When you succeed, resist the urge to immediately point out what still needs fixing before you let yourself register what went right. Each of these moments is a small piece of evidence you are giving your nervous system that receiving is safe, that good things can stay, that you will not be punished for having them. The belief did not install in one moment. It will not remove in one moment either. It removes through repetition, the same slow accumulation of evidence that built it in the first place, just running the opposite direction now. Finally, take action before you feel ready. This is the part people skip most often, waiting to feel worthy before they act, when it actually runs the other direction entirely. Worthiness is built through the evidence of action, not the other way around. You do not wait until you feel deserving to charge what you are worth. Apply for the opportunity. Have the hard conversation. Ask for what you want out loud. You do it while the fear is still fully present, while your chest is still tight. Your instinct is still telling you to shrink, and the doing itself becomes the proof that overwrites the old belief. Confidence is downstream of action, not upstream of it. Nobody ever felt their way into worthiness first. People act, survive the acting, and the belief catches up afterward because it finally has new evidence to work with instead of the old file it has been running on for years. Expect this to feel uncomfortable in a specific way, not painful in the way the original wound was painful, but unfamiliar in a way your nervous system will initially read as risk. This is normal. Growth and danger feel almost identical to a nervous system that has spent years equating safety with staying small. The discomfort is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is a sign the old pattern is being asked to update. And updating always feels unstable before it feels solid. There's one more piece of this that matters as much as the individual practices, and it is patience with a timeline. A belief installed over the first 18 or 20 years of your life is not going to fully clear in a weekend, no matter how good the journaling session was or how much you cried during it. Expect this to work in layers. You will process a piece of it, feel real relief, and then encounter another layer a few months later when life presents a bigger version of the same test. This is not failure, and it is not evidence the work did not take. It is how depth actually gets cleared. The version of you who first names the belief is not strong enough yet to face the biggest expression of it, and that's fine, because the smaller repetitions are what build the strength for the larger ones. Watch also for the specific moment your own resistance shows up loudest, because it will show up, and it will sound reasonable. It will sound like a legitimate reason to postpone the work. You will suddenly get busy right when you sit down to trace the belief. You will suddenly feel tired right when the memory starts to surface. You will suddenly decide this whole framework sounds a little too simple to actually be true. Notice this for what it is. The same nervous system that built the ceiling in the first place will defend the ceiling once you start dismantling it. Because as far as the nervous system is concerned, the ceiling has been keeping you safe for years, and you are now asking it to trust an unfamiliar approach. Expect the resistance. Do the work anyway. Your abundance was never capped by the universe. It was never capped by a lack of the right technique or the right words said in the right order at the right time of day. It was capped by a belief you built to survive a version of your life that no longer exists. That belief served its purpose once. It kept a version of you safe when safety was not guaranteed and you had no other tools available to protect yourself. It has no purpose now except to keep you smaller than the life you are actually capable of building. You do not need a better vision board. You do not need a longer gratitude list. You need to find the specific place where you decided you were not worthy. Feel what you never let yourself feel about it at the time, and prove to your own nervous system through repeated action and repeated receiving that the old rule no longer applies to the person you are now. This is slower than an affirmation. It asks more of you than a morning routine. It is also the only version of this work that actually holds because it goes to the source instead of decorating the surface. Everything else is decoration on top of a belief that is still running the show underneath it. Go find the belief, name it precisely, trace it to where it started, feel what you never let yourself feel, then go prove it wrong, one action at a time, for as long as it takes for the new evidence to outweigh the old.